With all the buzz around crypto right now, the regulatory chatter, new moves, and bills actually getting passed, I think this is the perfect moment to zero in on the biggest stories shaping this market. And wow, tokenization is absolutely stealing the show. We're looking at a solid 7.43% jump in just the last 30 days. Get this, we've got nearly 26 billion in real-world assets sitting on-chain now, and asset holders have exploded by over 56% to hit 314,000 people. Plus, stablecoin values are climbing right alongside everything else. This market just keeps growing and growing, and here's the wild part. Some pretty big names are saying this on-chain value could skyrocket by 4,000 times. That's straight from Bitwise's CIO. And honestly, when you really think about it, that number doesn't sound as crazy as it might at first. If you picture what a 4,000x jump would actually look like from where we are now, it's pretty mind-blowing. Smokedog dropped an amazing breakdown of just how massive the tokenization market could potentially be. We're talking about real estate at 337 trillion, digital bonds at 314 trillion, investment funds sitting at 155 trillion, and public equity at 123 trillion. This isn't new information either. These numbers have been floating around for ages. Here's what blows my mind though. We were already talking about tokenization way back in 2021, and even then the World Economic Forum pegged the total addressable market at a whopping $867 trillion, and that was years ago. Fast forward to today, and these numbers have only gotten bigger. Just to put things in perspective, the figures I'm sharing with you, those were from 2023 data. So we're looking at market sizes that have likely grown even more since then. In just 2 years, these numbers have absolutely exploded, and they're showing no signs of slowing down. It really drives home the point that the tokenization market keeps expanding at an incredible pace. Now, here's where it gets exciting. So if we actually hit that 4,000 times growth, we'd be looking at somewhere around $102 to $120 trillion. And when you step back and think about it, we're literally just getting started here. The crazy thing is that massive number doesn't even represent the entire market we're talking about. And here's another interesting piece. Tokenized real-world assets are actually wrapped up in utility tokens like XRP. What's really cool about this setup is how it boosts transparency and opens up market access like never before. It's basically making certain asset classes way more accessible to everyone. But here's a huge advantage that I think people are totally overlooking: ownership transfer. Tokenization lets you take physical rights or benefits and turn them digital, then wrap them up in utility tokens. You can actually mix these utility tokens right into your portfolio alongside security tokens, which opens up a whole world of new investment options. What's really smart about this is that portfolio management goes way beyond just watching your returns. With tokenization, you can actually include real, tangible benefits and physical rights in your portfolio, giving you management tools that blow traditional investment tracking out of the water. And speaking of utility tokens, XRP is a perfect example of how this works in practice. A functional utility crypto like XRP stands out because it's actually solving real problems and making things more efficient through blockchain tech. It's not just sitting there as something to speculate on or store value in. Down the line, they even draw the contrast with speculative assets like Bitcoin and Dogecoin. Absolutely. When you really think about it, utility-based projects are what's driving this whole tokenization revolution. Right now, Ethereum's sitting at the top of the networks, and we all know why that makes sense, but I honestly think we're going to see that landscape shift over time. Looking at this list, though, there are some seriously solid utility projects making waves. You've got XRP on there, ALGO, XLM, and I'm betting HBAR would be ranking pretty high too if they were tracking it properly. Don't sleep on XDC either. These are all projects that are really starting to show their tokenization chops. And here's the thing that gets me excited. While we're literally at the very beginning, we're only looking at around 14 billion across all these networks. That's basically pocket change compared to where this could go. Even Vlad Tenev is calling tokenization the biggest thing to hit capital markets in a decade. Listen to this.
Customers in the past have been denied the dividends, but we've actually managed to figure out how to give customers exposure to that. So we want to give all the benefits of the crypto technology and of holding the underlying assets with as few compromises as possible. And I think Robinhood is rarely sort of like the first mover in various spaces. We tend to have an approach where we like to make sure others sort of like do it first And I think in this particular case, we think it's so important that retail has exposure to these companies and these assets that we saw an opportunity to give a robust offering.
And I mean, you mentioned launching this in the U.S. as well. Is there a specific regulatory change that you need in order to get this done?
Well, for tokenization in the U.S., we do believe that the SEC has the authority to make it happen without legislation, which is interesting. And you probably saw last week, Chairman Atkins of the SEC gave an interview about tokenization. He called it a great innovation. And we agree with that. We think tokenization is perhaps the biggest innovation to come into capital markets in the past decade. So I think the U.S. shouldn't be far behind. I think the opportunity is
Listen, this is way too
not
massive for retail investors to just sit on the sidelines. I genuinely believe we're looking at incredible money-making opportunities over the next few years just by holding on to these utility-based projects, especially as we see more and more institutional money flowing in, big banks, asset management firms, governments, the whole 9 yards. And it's all happening because of these regulatory moves and bills getting passed. I mentioned this in a recent video. We literally witnessed history being made with those bills. That's not just hype talk either, because those pieces of legislation are opening the floodgates for trillions of dollars to pour into this market. We're honestly just scratching the surface of what's going to be a much bigger boom. And when you zoom in on the XRP ledger specifically, we're sitting at around $120 million in real-world assets right now. It's been bouncing around quite a bit. We actually hit over $130 million not too long ago. Right now, there are 10 RWA assets sitting on the XRP ledger, and you can see them all laid out right there. We've been watching some pretty exciting stuff happen around the XRPL when it comes to tokenization. The big one that just caught everyone's attention was the real estate tokenization through Control Alt, and we're definitely going to dive into that one. But honestly, I think we're about to see RWA value on the XRP ledger absolutely take off. And here's why I'm so bullish on this. It's all about the MPTs. These multi-purpose tokens are bringing incredible new flexibility to the XRP ledger. But here's the thing. They need some structure to really work smoothly across the entire ecosystem. That's where the proposed metadata standard comes in. It's all about making these MPTs way easier to find, rank, and actually integrate into different platforms and services. When you dig into this thread, it really breaks down the core issue perfectly. MPTs bring tons of flexibility to the table, but they're missing those structured fields you'd expect, like a simple currency code. Instead, they're working with this free-form metadata field, which honestly makes them a pain to identify or even display properly in user interfaces. The proposed metadata standard they're rolling out is pretty smart. It includes all the basics like ticker, name, icon, description, and a bunch more. What this means is that MPTs become searchable by ticker. You can rank them right alongside IOUs, and they'll actually work smoothly in explorers, dexes, UIs, and wallets. It just makes everything so much easier to parse and work with. It's really bridging that gap between having flexibility and actually being user-friendly. Now, adoption isn't mandatory, but they're definitely pushing for it. And here's the thing, this MPT standard is absolutely massive. Industry players like Jazzy Cooper from Ripple have been talking about how MPTs are going to be the key to getting institutions on board with tokenized on-chain assets. Why? Because you're getting all that rich data unlocked. The ticker, name, icon, description, and way more. This is absolutely a game changer, and the timing couldn't be better with Ripple really doubling down on institutional partnerships. Take Control Alt, for example. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Here's what's happening. Ripple, Control Alt, and the Dubai Land Department are teaming up, and Ripple Custody is going to handle scalable, structured storage for Dubai's tokenized real estate title deeds that are being issued right on the XRP ledger. What this means is fractional ownership becomes possible, you get complete transparency, and suddenly Dubai's real estate market is accessible to people all around the world. This builds on that original announcement we talked about earlier, and here's the kicker. We're already seeing money flowing into Control Alt on the XRP ledger. Look at this. We've got 4 actual properties already tokenized, ranging from $408,000 all the way up to over $1 million. That's real money, real assets happening right now. Monica Long really hit the nail on the head with her take on this. She's saying that as we're looking at trillions of dollars in assets, bonds, stocks, real estate, you name it, getting tokenized worldwide. You absolutely cannot underestimate how critical bank-grade custody and security becomes for these assets. And she's clearly proud that Ripple Custody is the one safeguarding Dubai Land Department's real estate title deeds that are tokenized on the XRP ledger. She even called it no elementary task, which tells you just how complex and important this stuff really is. This is exactly the kind of insight that gets me excited because it shows us we're heading toward massive adoption of tokenized assets across the board. And we're not talking small numbers here. Monica's talking about trillions of dollars that are going to flood onto blockchain networks. The official announcement really breaks down some incredible details here. Let me walk through the big highlights. First off, they're calling Dubai Land Department's real estate tokenization project a perfect example of the kind of forward-thinking innovation that's putting Dubai right at the center of the global digital asset world. And get this, this is literally the first time any government real estate and registration authority in the Middle East has tokenized property title deeds on a public blockchain. The fact that they chose the XRP ledger for this, that's huge validation and really proves that XRPL is becoming the go-to blockchain for serious financial applications. What's really exciting is that Control-Alt picked Ripple's institutional-grade digital asset custody tech to power this whole project. And here's a major regulatory win. Control-Alt just secured their VASP license from VARA, making them the first VASP that's actually authorized to handle issuer-related services. This regulatory milestone is absolutely massive because it's formally connecting token issuance with custody of real-world assets. What that means is you've got a completely compliant tokenization process that covers everything, from when the asset gets issued all the way through secure custody, on-chain settlement, and the entire lifecycle management. As the designated tokenization provider for the DLD project, Control-Alt is bringing some serious expertise in financial engineering and digital asset infrastructure to the table. So it totally makes sense that they'd partner with Ripple to tap into their custody technology for this initiative. They're basically saying that partnering with Ripple lets them use proven, trusted tech that hits the highest security and operational standards out there. And they're genuinely excited to work together and open up Dubai real estate investment opportunities to way more people around the world. This is honestly just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to real estate tokenization, and I am absolutely pumped about where this is heading. The fact that the XRP ledger is starting to build real momentum around tokenized RWAs feels like major confirmation that we're going to see a flood of new partnerships hitting the XRPL for tokenized real-world assets. And I'm betting we're going to see the value of RWAs on the XRP ledger absolutely explode from here. I'm seriously excited about the long-term picture because it's so easy to get distracted by all the short-term noise and daily price swings. But when you step back and think about the sheer amount of value out there that could get tokenized, it's mind-blowing. What we're seeing right now is literally just drops in the bucket. And even these tiny drops are getting everyone excited. But imagine when we hit $250 billion in total RWAs on-chain. That's a 10 times jump from where we are now. Or picture $2.5 trillion. That's 100x growth. And if we're talking $25 trillion, we're looking at 1,000 times from today's numbers. What I'm getting at is that these networks are just going to keep seeing more and more adoption. We're going to witness money flowing onto blockchain like never before. And here's the thing. Ripple actually told us this was coming. They laid it all out back in April, basically giving us the roadmap for what we're watching unfold right now. By 2033, we're looking at a massive shift, anywhere from 0.6 trillion to 18.9 trillion, as tokenization completely reshapes global finance. This is all happening because of regulation finally catching up, institutional adoption taking off, and RWAs like bonds and real estate, which we now have both on the XRP ledger, plus faster, more interoperable financial infrastructure. We're witnessing the biggest financial boom in decades. Everything is shifting. Everything's moving on chain. If you're not paying attention to this trend, you're missing what could be the biggest wealth building opportunity of our time. The early holders who position themselves now are going to do incredibly well as these values just keep climbing higher and higher. And speaking of major moves, we just saw something huge happen with Archax and Aberdeen. Graham Rodford dropped a post recently where he's talking about being proud to collaborate with Lloyd's Banking Group and Aberdeen on pioneering tokenized money market funds and gilts to handle FX settlement obligations through Archax Exchange using Nest. their on-chain collateral transfer network. This is exactly what real-world utility for digital assets looks like in action. And FX is just the starting point. From tokenized securities to smart collateral management, the future isn't some distant concept. It's being built right now, right in front of us. A lot of people were asking whether this actually connects to the XRP ledger, and Graham Rodford cleared that up perfectly. He said, yes, the XRP ledger is fully supported by all their fund assets and is completely Nest compatible. Any parties that want to work with tokenized RWAs can use Nest with the XRP ledger to make transfers happen. Same goes for Hedera and Algorand too. Listen, players like Archax are literally building the future right before our eyes, and you really need to pay attention to what's unfolding here. We're watching one of the biggest financial evolutions in history, and it's only picking up speed. And check this out. Archax Exchange keeps pushing RWA tokenization further and further. Right now, today, you can use the XRP ledger to transfer tokenized money market funds and gilts, those are UK government bonds, as collateral for FX settlement. And here's the kicker. The FX market processes $7.5 trillion every single day. In the UK, we're looking at around 5.4 trillion, which is absolutely massive. These deals are actually happening and getting signed as we speak. What XRP, the XRPL, and Ripple are accomplishing here is honestly incredible. I mean, we're talking about huge developments in real estate, and that market just keeps growing worldwide. It's sitting at over 600 trillion now. This is amazing news for those of us working with tokenized real-world assets because our potential market just keeps expanding every single year. I really hope you found this video helpful. If you did, I'd love it if you could hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our free content. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. Catch you in the next one.